Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2013 Ford Explorer. We're going to be changing the rear brake pads and rotors. The brakes on the back of these have the actual the parking brake. The parking brake goes through the caliper itself, so you will need some special tools in order to do this job. So let me grab some tools. I'm going to bring you in there. I'm going to show you what to do, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. So let me explain what to do first, and then I'm going to show you what tools you're going to need. So all right, let's get started. This is your caliper, obviously. What we need to do is, remember how we usually get in here and we pry this piston back in? Well, in this particular car, you cannot pry that piston back in. It has to be rotated in with a special tool. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to take off this bolt here. It's a 13 millimeter. This is also a 13 millimeter. And then when you go underneath the bottom, right up underneath here, you're going to see that's a 15 millimeter. And also there's one more up on the top right up in here. That's also a 15 millimeter. We have to remove that also. That will take the caliper and the mounting bracket off of the car and out of the way. We do need to take this Torx out of here. This is a TX40, so you will need to remove that. This you want to be careful. You don't want to strip it, so you have to be very careful, which I'm going to show you how to do that now. So, all right, let me grab some tools and let's get started. Okay, here we have an example of what type of tools you're going to need. This is the special tool I was telling you about in which to rotate that piston back in on the caliper. I'll show you how to use this and how to decide which one of these tools you're going to need to install on the end of this to do it. If you don't have this, you may be able to do it with a pair of needle nose pliers like that. I'm going to give it a shot and I'll show you how to do it without this special tool over here. Like I said, you're going to need that Torx, that TX40. You're going to need some sockets. As you can see, I already have them off the rail already. One is a 13 and the other is a 15. We're going to need just a 9/16, believe it or not, wrench to actually rotate this piece right here once we have it installed. We are going to need a hammer, a pry bar, and of course some synthetic brake grease and a rag. All right, so all right, let's get started. First thing we're going to do, we're going to take out these bolts right here. So let's do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take out this bolt right in here. And the reason I'm telling you be careful with this is because if this strips out, you're going to wind up having to drill it. So if you get in here with your ratchet and you put your ratchet on here and you see that this is too tight and you can't get it off, don't go crazy trying to twist it and get it out of there. Take a brass drift or a metal drift or something like that, just put it on the top here and just tap it very lightly, just like that. You don't want to damage where the tool is going to fit into. Just very lightly, just tap it like that. All right? Now, you'll get in here with your ratchet, and obviously it's going to be counterclockwise off, clockwise on, so let's give it a try. Make sure you hold your tool straight. It is very tight, so we're going to do something else. We're going to hold the rotor from rotating with this here. Make sure you hold your tool straight. See how the ratchet is straight? The Torx, that TX40 is not going crooked or anything. You want to make sure you hold it perfectly straight. Now you don't want to lose this bolt because you're going to need to put this back in there as well. Put this off to the side. Now if you'll notice, a lot of times when I do any work on here, I use a swivel head ratchet. You see when I took this bolt out here, I didn't use a swivel head ratchet because I didn't want this piece here turning all over the place when I was trying to take that off. So that's why I use something like this, a straight ratchet with a lot of leverage. The length of the shaft is very important to get that additional leverage you'll need. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the 13 millimeter bolts out of the mounting bracket and the caliper itself. break them both loose first. And we'll take these out. Again, don't lose them because you're going to need to use these over again. We're going to take this caliper off and relocate it off to the side for now. Just like this. We're going to make sure that these slide pins here slide properly. Very important. If these are rusted or don't slide loosely, replace the mounting bracket or replace the caliper, whichever. These do slide nice and freely, so we're not going to worry about that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get that 15mm socket, and we're going to take those bolts off in the back right over here. And we're just going to relocate this bracket off to the side for now. Now this rotor comes off. You can bang it with a hammer and try to knock it off if you'd like. This one we're going to be changing because there's a pretty big rust lip on here. You put a pry bar in like this up against this mounting ear here and there, and just pull it. If it comes off, fine. If it doesn't, you take a hammer and you hit right here while you're prying out on it. So let's do that. I just want to point this out. Be careful you don't strike these studs because you'll be changing the studs if you do. We're going to put this off to the side for now. Now this we have to clean up because this is extremely rusty in here, but we will do that in a minute. Okay, now we're going to talk about this here. Remember we talked about that piston has to be turned back in right there? We have to rotate this piston back into the bore. It's got to go in. You can't push it in, you have to turn it in. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that tool I was showing you before. You take these two pins right here, and you're going to line those pins up in here. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Let's just reposition you a little bit here. All right, you put these two grooves right here. You line those two little pieces up right there. Alright, and then we're just going to turn this out just like this. I'll set it up and then I'll show you. See? Goes just like that. And then we're going to rotate this shaft here, which is going to push this in and push in and rotate at the same time. So let's do that. Tools. And we're just going to turn this and hold this one here at the same time. Can you see what I'm doing here? All right. Now you're going to turn this. At the same time you'll be able to see this. Let's check it out here. Maybe that's a little better. We're going to turn this in. Just like that. You see how it's turning? And you hold this tool up on top and you rotate it. Make sure you keep it tight by turning this nut right here. And you'll see that piston slowly pushes back in. Now I'm going to point this out to you. See this boot on here? When you're turning this piston in, make sure that that boot is not twisting also. If the boot is twisting, you would get in here with something like this called a scribe, and you just hook the bottom of the boot where it comes onto the piston here, and you just make sure it just is loose like that. This is a dust boot. This doesn't hold fluid in. It's just to keep dust and road debris out of there. All right, so make sure it doesn't get twisted. And now we'll continue turning this piston back in. Now obviously you can use a ratchet if you choose to. You see how that piston's going in? And we're going to loosen that tool for a minute. Just want to check to see where those, where those two grooves are. So we're going to loosen this up. Now I'm lining this groove up just the way it was before we took it apart. Make sure it goes in as far as it can go. Okay, now I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to take that tool off, and I'll show you. You see how these are not quite lined up? They're a little bit crooked. We need to rotate that just a little more. But I want to show you something else. If by chance you don't have this tool, I don't recommend doing it this way. You rent the tool from a parts store if you can, but if you're in a pinch and you can't do it, you may be able to get it done with needle nose pliers, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Be careful you don't stab yourself. You put your needle nose pliers in here like this, and you can rotate the piston with those pliers. It's a pain in the rear end to do, but it can be done. I've done it before, but you can just rotate it. All right? Now, we want to make sure that these two here are lined up just the way that they were before we started, and that's exactly how it was. So we're going to put this off to the side right now, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to clean off all of this rust in here. Very important to get this rust off so we don't have any kind of a discrepancy with the rotor being put back on. So let me get my my disc to clean this up. I'm going to use a rotating disc to clean this off. If you don't have that, you can use a razor blade or whatever you have, sandpaper, emery cloth. But let me clean this up, and then we're going to continue. Okay, now that we have the new rotor here, we have to clean off. These are a premium rotor, actually, I might add, because they have actually this, what is it called, electro, whatever it is, plated rotor. So it's supposed to keep it from rusting. You pay a few bucks more, but supposedly it's a very good rotor. So we're going to clean off all of the oil that's on here, because they actually put oil on it while it's in the warehouse so it doesn't rust. So we're just going to clean it with some brake cleaner. And we'll just clean off any of the oil that's on here. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side here. You see it has quite a bit of oil on there. The reason I chose getting this one here is because the other rotor was so rusted inside. It was really in pretty bad condition. So, all right, so now that we have this cleaned off, we're going to put this back on the car, and then I'm going to show you how to switch over the hardware inside there too. So let's put this off to the side for now. Okay, this is your caliper here. We're going to take these brake pads out. Same thing here. Pretty rusty, actually. Which I might add, if you look at these, you'll see these are fairly thick still. You're probably wondering why they're being changed, being that they're so thick. The brake pedal was pulsating like mad. And the reason it was pulsating because these were rusted into here and they weren't moving. and therefore cause the brake to stay applied and it caused it to warp. See how tight? Let me grab a hammer, we'll tap that out there. Now, the inner and the outer are the same brake pad. You can see they both have that little pin right there. There is no indicator on these brake pads at all, so it doesn't really matter which one is inner and which one is outer. They're both the same. All right? Now, to change the hardware on here, you just pry on this here, just like that, and you pry it right out. They pop right off like this. All right? Now, if there's a significant amount of rust underneath here, you need to clean this off with a emery cloth, with a file, with a sandblaster, whatever you have. This is pretty clean, so we're not going to worry about this one. Hey, what's up? How you doing? All right, give me 1 second. Be right there. Okay, be right back. Okay. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of grease right here. You don't need to, but I started doing it a while back. All right, now we're going to change our hardware. Quite simply, you're just going to match it up to the one that came off, and you're going to put it back on the same way. And you'll feel them snap right in place. Okay. Right, just like that. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this slide pin out and this slide pin out. You're going to put a little bit of lubricant on here like this. Like this. Put them back in. Make sure they push all the way back in as far as they can go, and you'll see them pop up. See? Then you take some of the brake grease and you lubricate every place that the brake pad is going to touch, just like this. Now, always match up your brake pads to make sure they're the same ones, just so you don't have an issue. And these are the same. So we're going to put these, now you can put them in here, or you can put them in the car. I'm going to put them in right here. We're going to put our next pad in over here, just like this. And they slide nice and easy now inside here. So that's how your brake caliper is put back together. All right, let me turn you around, and we're going to put the rotor back on, and we'll wrap this up. I think you can see pretty good there. Now remember, line your rotor up with that bolt that came out, just like that. And now we're going to put that Torx back inside here that we previously took out. I might add, I did put some lubricant on there to make it slide in there a little bit easier. And now we'll turn it all the way in. Remember, keep your ratchet straight on there. You don't want to twist anything. Nice and tight, okay? And it's pushed in. Okay. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to put our mounting bracket back on. We'll tighten that back up. Slide it over the top. I always squeeze the pads together and then catch your bolts. Make sure you catch them both before you tighten them up. Catch both bolts. Alright, and then we'll tighten these up. Now there is torque specs on that. I know I'm going to hear it from somebody about not torquing them, but that's just the way I do it. I've been doing them forever. So, alright. Next thing we're going to do is every place that this brake pad touches against the caliper, you're going to lubricate, including this piston here, because you can see how rusty that is, and on the back over here, as well as over here, right? And then we're going to put our caliper back over the top, push your pins back in here, like that, catch both of the bolts. And once you've got them caught by hand, then you can tighten them up with the ratchet. Now, if by chance you're tightening these up, I'm going to show you this. I don't know if you can see here, but I'm going to show you. Let's bring this up a little bit more here. Okay. If you're trying to tighten this bolt up right here, and this whole thing here is spinning, this piece right here, you can hold it with a wrench if you need to. That's not the case here, so we're going to snug it up nice and tight, and we're going to do the same thing on the bottom as well, right here. Now you see that is rotating a little bit, but you can hold this with your fingers right here to keep it from spinning, and if it turns and you can't hold it, then two things: either you didn't put enough lubricant on there, or you need to hold it with a wrench. All right? Let me grab a wrench because that is actually turning right now. We're just going to hold this. It doesn't have to hold it. Just keep it from rotating. That's all it's doing. Tight. And tight. That's it. We're all done. All right, so let me recap what we did. We'll talk about this now. Now, remember we put the rotor back on. We cleaned up the face where the rotor was going to go. We put that bolt back in here, that TX40. We installed our mounting bracket back on, tightened up our 15mm bolt here and here underneath the bottom right there. We lubricated every place that the brake pad's going to go. We changed our hardware here as well. We rotated that piston back in on the caliper. We made sure that those two little grooves there lined up the way they previously came off, because it had to line up with that pin. I'll show you. Remember, it had to line up with that little pin right there. All right, so we line that back up. We have every place that the brake pad is touching is lubricated, and that's it. We're all set. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go on the other side. We're going to duplicate the process on the other side, and then we're going to wrap it up and out the door and on to the next one. I will point this out before you. Wait a second. Okay, before you take it out for a road test, make sure you get in the vehicle after you've done both left and right side. Step on the brake pedal, pump it a couple of times, the pedal will come right up on the top. What you're doing is you're actually reseating that caliper piston back up against the brake pad itself, so it has a nice firm pedal. That's it, you're done. All right, any questions or comments, if you need any advice, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.